Hey, what's up guys? Captain Jamie, Breakline Charters. I had numerous requests for an anchoring video. So this is going to be that, but it's going to be really detailed. It's going to cover a lot of different things. So it's going to be shot on multiple sites and it's going to be kind of long, but very packed full of information. Hope you guys enjoy. Alright, so just to be clear, everything that I'm going to be covering in this video is going to be applied to situations where there is some kind of current. If you're fishing a lake, unless you're eating lunch or something, there's really no reason to put down an anchor, if you're fishing anyhow. Remember this is important. Moving baits are going to catch more fish. A stationary bait is not going to be as effective. Now that could mean you actually moving the bait with the fishing rod, or it could just mean the boat moving a little bit, or it could mean that the current in the river is moving the bait for you. What I'm getting at is, in a lake situation, just keep your boat moving, let it move slowly, drag your baits, you'll cover more ground and make the presentation more attractive. If you ever take a look at the cleats on my boat, every cleat's got an O-ring. These two here towards the back on the sides are used for two things. One of the things that I utilize them for are my shallow water anchor poles. They're by Panther. They come in multiple lengths. They screw together. One end has a handle for pushing it into a soft bottom. The other end has a point. What I do is I screw those ends together and then I stick it right through that O-ring. Now that's going to work well for sandy bottoms, muddy bottoms, any kind of soft bottom. That would be used if it's shallow enough to use the pole and if you're getting any kind of boat sway. You're going to simply take it, drop it into that ring, and then firmly plant it in. The other reason I have these rings on my cleats here is because I utilize drift socks a lot. These are going to be used to control or slow your drift when you're on a lake where there's no current, or if you're in a situation on the river where there is very little current, you've got your front anchor down but the back end of your boat's just swaying back and forth. You can put one or two of these out the sides. They're going to catch that current and stabilize your boat. They open up here. They're going to capture a lot of water. It has a float so that the bag stays upright, and then there's an exit for the water to go out. So it's not trapping the water, it's just kind of containing it. And then you can get different sizes of these. So your size is usually determined by what you're going to actually use it for and your boat size. And there's tons of information online about drift socks. I encourage you to look that up because I'm not going to go into that in this. If you don't want to buy drift socks but you want to try the method of using something out the back of the boat to kind of contain that current and help stabilize, you can just get a regular old 5-gallon bucket. You want to remove the metal handle that comes on it because if the current does pick up, that handle will just rip off the bucket. So get yourself a 5-gallon bucket, take the handle off, drill 2 holes in the sides towards the top of the rim, stick rope in, tie a knot, and get yourself a really long rope handle, and then you can tie those to the sides of the boat, and that'll do the same thing. But key thing, you want to drill holes in the bottom of that bucket. Use like a 1-inch drill bit, Swiss cheese that thing so that the current goes into it, but it does have smaller holes to escape, or else the bucket will just sway side to side, causing more problems. So you always want to carry 2 anchors. This is kind of my backup. Spool's trashed. my poor extension cord reel. But you can see how nice this anchor is still. I mean, it's pretty much lives in here because that's what I call my emergency anchor. The front one gets hung up, can't break it loose, get in trouble, something like that. You always want to have 2 anchors that you know will hold your boat in your boat at all times. Alright, so I said that was my emergency anchor, my backup anchor. The reason it doesn't come out of there much is because I do not drop an anchor out of the back of the boat unless I absolutely have to. Rear anchoring is not a great idea. If you have some other way to stabilize your boat other than putting out a back anchor, please do it. Not only for safety reasons, but also, you know, you've just got another hazard back there to have to deal with whenever you're bringing fish in. So, you know, think about the other two things that I mentioned as a way to kind of keep the back of the boat from swaying back and forth, as opposed to dropping that rear anchor. And never, ever, ever anchor off of the back of the boat exclusively. It happens way quicker than you think. If a piece of debris comes downriver and catches that rear anchor line, it will pull the back of your boat down, and seconds, absolute seconds, your boat will fill up with water. I know a few people it's happened to. You probably do too. In a matter of seconds, you're done. So never just anchor off the back of the boat. All right, let's talk anchors. So these would be what you'd use off the front of your boat. This is the one I used for, gosh, probably the last 5 years. I haven't lost an anchor in a long time. I should find some wood to knock on right now, shouldn't I? So this is just a 30-pound river anchor. This thing has seen things. Let's see here. So your anchor size is going to be determined by the size of your boat. You know, a 30-pound anchor is going to be great for a boat my size, you know, up in that, you know, 24-foot range. You can get away with a lighter anchor if you have a smaller boat. In my 16-foot boat, I use like a 15-pound anchor, and that holds us just fine. But key thing, and a lot of people don't, but adding chain to your anchor is going to help you a lot with a couple different things. So when you drop your anchor out of the boat and it falls down into the river, if you have rope, that rope isn't going to sink. This chain will. So this chain, all right, so we're dropping our anchor out of the boat. Anchor's dropped and we're pulling backwards. The weight of this chain is going to help that anchor fall down where it needs to, and it's going to really speed up your anchor catch rate. Chain length for the river applications that we're doing, 3 foot is good enough. Whenever you're out in the bay and you're using a sand anchor, you actually want to use a foot of chain for every foot of boat. So my sand anchor's got 24 feet of chain on it. But the reason for that is that chain is going to weigh down and really help that anchor dig in. And it's the same thing in the river, except you don't need nearly as much chain. But chain is key. If you don't have chain on your anchor, add some. It's going to really increase how quick your anchor hooks up. The other thing that chain's good for is breaking your anchors loose. So if you just have rope tied on the end of this thing and you drive your boat really hard up into it to try to break it free, if this rope is wrapped around a rock or something, good chance you're not going to get your anchor back. Where this chain, if it's wrapped around something and you drive your boat up hard into it, much better chance of breaking this anchor free if you've got all this chain on it. I don't use this anchor anymore. This has now become one I stash in the garage because when I went to CatCon this year, I picked up a Cat River anchor. It has been really good to me. So I'm going to talk about that now. The idea behind the Cat River anchor is you can get away with less weight. This doesn't weigh nearly as much. I think I shed about 10 pounds by going to this anchor, which is nice for pulling it all the time. Still has chain on it. Notice that, right? But the idea with this is, you know, that chain, you're going to drop it out of the boat, chain's going to fall down, anchor's going to catch, life is good. Now, if this anchor does get hung up, the zip tie, that's all this chain's attached to is zip tie, right? You can drive into it, that zip tie will break loose, pulling this whole chain away from the anchor and allowing you to pull it out from the top end. If that makes sense. Because of my boat size and the current situation, I did add a second zip tie because I was just snapping zip ties, dropping it, and trying to get it hung up. But with 2 zip ties, for me, this thing's working great. Now for a little bit of terminology. Rode, R-O-D-E. Rode refers to the length of chain and rope that you're gonna put out of your boat. General rule of thumb is you want 7 to 10 times the depth of water that you're in as your rode length. So we'll do an easy one. Let's say you're fishing in 4 feet of water. How much rode should you let out of your boat? 4 feet of water. 28 feet to 40 feet. You always want to lead towards the higher number in heavier current or rough weather situations. I know very few people put out as much rode as they should whenever they're anchoring up their boat. It really helps you get a good firm hold. It's going to add to the security of that hold because of the angle of the rope coming out of your boat. If you just put out enough for the anchor to fall down and catch, and you're sitting there and your anchor's down there like that, it's not going to take much to get that thing to jiggle loose. But by increasing our rode length, we are decreasing the angle and therefore making it more secure. So I hope this video has helped people out that had questions about anchoring, maybe people that have struggled to get their anchor to grab. Adding chain is going to help you a lot, and then increasing your rode length is going to help you a ton too. Now there's one more terminology that I want to teach you guys here, and that's bite. B-I-G-H-T. Bite refers to something like that. That's a bite. The reason that's called a bite is because you never want to stand or have your arm or foot or anything inside a rope bite. That's going to grab you. That's why it's called that. So whenever you do put your anchor out of your boat and you're tying it off to the cleat, let's say we're tied off right here. So that's our tie off. We're on the cleat now. This thing is just kind of laying on the deck, all whatever, coiled up like that. If I'm up on the front deck, even if that is securely tied to that cleat, all right, even if it's a really, really good tight hold and everything seems sound, you don't want to be standing here like this, because if that cleat were to rip loose, all of a sudden, we've got major issues. So always avoid the bites. All right, guys, that's the anchoring video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that it helps some of you guys out, you know, maybe with increasing your rate of hookup and strength of hookup. Remember, add some chain to your anchors, increase your rode length. What else is key here? Never anchor off the back of your boat. Bad things can happen in a hurry. Don't stand in the bites, right? All right, guys, let me know if you have any questions.